They say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting the same result. Just ask an Argentinian who's witnessed year after year of catastrophic economic decision-making that has destroyed their country's middle class and created record inflation that recently soared past 211%. Inevitably, someone eventually steps up to break the cycle of insanity. Someone new, familiar, formidable. Perhaps someone with a chainsaw. Well, here he is, and he might just be insane himself. Javier Milei has won Argentina's November election in a landslide, promising to make Argentina great again. I know, insane, right? Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, just 2 weeks after that madman was elected, another wild-haired right-wing firebrand won a general election in the Netherlands. Geert Wilders has been lurking around the Dutch parliament since 1998 and is well known for his golden pompadour, as well as being a populist anti-immigration Eurosceptic and fierce critic of Islam. If only he'd just say what he really thinks. Anyway, with these bold agendas, do these pioneers of style have the political substance they need? And how will this new wave of right-wing politics tie in with the gathering storm in the US? That original bad-haired bad boy, the one and only Donald J. Trump. James Plushfoot reports.
Not since the 60s has there been a better time for people with horrible hair. The carousel of politicians setting the trend will be joined by the recent winners of elections in Argentina and the Netherlands. And if polls are correct, Donald Trump's bouffant may rejoin the menagerie of wild style in November. Let's begin this new year by taking a closer look at 3 of the world leaders set to be among the most talked about people of 2024. So you can continue to be the smartest person in any room, especially if you happen to be in a mainstream newsroom. Argentinian elections concluded in November last year with victory for La Libertad Avanza and Javier Milei. Yep, this guy, also known as the Whig, the Madman, and by his alter ego General ANCAP, whatever that means. Milei was a former tantric sex coach and foul-mouthed media pundit turned chainsaw-wielding presidential candidate, with no prior experience in public office. A record 55.7% of voters, or over 14 million Argentinians, voted for this guy over the previous Minister of Economy responsible for the over 200% inflation in the country. A number so embarrassing that the incumbent president and vice president didn't even reapply for the ballot. Wielding a chainsaw signaling his intent to slash government departments and the rate of inflation, Milei promised voters he would lead Argentina to superpower status again in just 30 years.
Don't let socialism advance. And don't let the siren calls of social justice woo you. I come from a country that bought all of those stupid ideas, and from being one of the most affluent countries in the world, now we rank 140.
In one of the biggest political upsets in Dutch history, Geert Wilders finally moved from political furniture to Prime Minister of the Netherlands last November, having held a seat in Parliament since 1998. The controversial figure and his Party for Freedom, which he founded in 2006, won 37 of 150 seats in Dutch Parliament, beating incumbent PM Mark Rutte, whose 4th attempt at building a stable cabinet collapsed, triggering a snap election. Wilders has vowed to address the ongoing asylum tsunami.
The Netherlands is for the Dutch again. We will limit the asylum tsunami.
The Islamization of his country,
The Quran really has more anti-Semitism in it than, for instance, Mein Kampf. So I rather would have no Quran at all.
And the indoctrination of children with climate, gender and anti-nationalist rhetoric and activism.
Wij zijn ook niet van die woke-waanzin. Wij laten onze toekomst niet bepalen door een club hysterische fanatici die alleen nog maar wil praten over diversiteit, gender en klimaat.
Perhaps because of this agenda, Wilders has been protected at all times by armed police since 2004. But now he seems to have the people on his side. What else needs to be said about the man who took on the establishment and steamrolled them in November 2016, beating the unbeatable Democrat Hillary Clinton and promising to drain the swamp in Washington, D.C. But this time, the political establishment are doing whatever they can to avoid his return, including 2 impeachments and these 4 indictments. Despite all this, polls show Trump remains as popular among his supporters as ever, despite having no agenda other than being stupid, orange, and dangerous. And of course these minor achievements of his first tenure as president, which won't be discussed on the mainstream news because
the return of Donald Trump to the White House could spell the end of democracy.
We could have a Trump presidency, and that would, in my opinion, be the end of democracy.
If he runs and wins, that could be the end of our democracy.
That would be the end of democracy as we know it.
It's the end of democracy.
That is a recipe for the end of democracy.
I think that could be the end of our democracy.
So, is there more than meets the eye with this new breed of politician? Beneath those brash exteriors and wispy hairstyles, each seems to be addressing the concerns of large portions of their populations, a rather novel approach to the game of politics that we've grown accustomed to. Perhaps in combination, they could shake up the global political establishment like others have done before, like UK Trump Boris Johnson, Trump of the tropics Jair Bolsonaro, female Trump Giorgia Meloni, and the Trump before Trump Viktor Orban. So, can the left-leaning media tolerate 2 new Trumps? And how will they handle reporting on the old one?
He cannot be the next president. A vote for Donald Trump may mean the last election that you ever get to vote in.
You might have any number of things happen to you and your family.
Every one of us, our freedom, our liberty, none of us is safe.
He can shoot the First Lady.
Make it illegal to run against him, to
terminate the Constitution,
throw his opponents in jail,
create mass internment camps,
to shut down the media.
He will make himself into the Fuhrer. Trump's very well-armed and extremist base will try to kill people.
Similarities between Mussolini and Hitler.
Adolf Hitler and Benito Mussolini.
Makes Donald Trump even more dangerous.
He wants to take away your vote.
He would try to stay in office beyond a second term. He would never leave office.
There's no question.
Jeez, sounds like we're set for some crazy times ahead. James Plushfoot, INN News.
Crazy times ahead indeed. Thanks, James.